Okay, I see we're on the air. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Fargo Planning Commission for Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. I've got a couple announcements first. When everybody's leaving today, take a peek outside at the architecture boards. Or anybody in the audience too, when you leave tonight or today. Take a look at the students' work from NDSU. There will be no brown bag on Wednesday, May 19th. There will be no brown bag this month. Item 3 will be continued. The conditional use permit to allow residential use in the general commercial zoning district at 5652 36th Avenue South. There will be no presentation by staff on this item, and no action will be taken by the commission at this time. Also note on your calendars that our next meeting is June 3rd, and that is a Thursday, not Tuesday, due to a conflict with the commission meetings. And also, before we approve the agenda, we will be adding one item to the agenda, item E4, relating to the proposed amendment to the Land Development Code. This is not a public hearing, but it's an informational item that will be brought to us at the end of our meeting today. So I'll look for approval of the order of agenda, including this item E4.
So moved.
I've got a motion. Is there a second? I got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item 1A. Conditional hearing on the application of a zoning change from GC General Commercial with a conditional overlay to GC General Commercial with a PUD. This is Megan.
Say, Commissioner?
Yes.
You need to approve the minutes first, sir.
Oh, geez, I skipped that.
Thank you.
Got too many things on the agenda today. I'll back up for a minute.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we're on to item 1A. And Megan, I'm going to take the chairman's privilege right now to, Megan will be leaving us in the near future, within a month about?
Just this week, end of this week.
And this week, I know you might have a couple items on the next agenda, but Megan has been with the planning department for 8 years. I think that's right. And she's worked very diligently over the time, and we appreciate your service. She's not going far. She's got a great opportunity out in West Fargo to head up the planning department. So we wish you the best, and I just wanted to, just in case I get screwed up and left this out at the end, I thought, I want to get this off my, so
Thank you, Chair Gunkelman.
so take it away, Megan.
All right, item 1A and 1B is the EOLA addition. This is an application for a zone change from general commercial with a CO conditional overlay to general commercial with a PUD planned unit development overlay, and request to repeal the CO conditional overlay and a PUD master land use plan. You may remember on the March 2nd Planning Commission meeting, your commission reviewed this item for the first time, as well as a subdivision, major subdivision with waiver for street width, which your commission did approve and pass to the city commission. So today is the zoning change and the master land use plan. The subject property is located at 2470 and 2500 45th Street South and contains approximately 16.74 acres. Applicant Blake Nybakken with Epic Companies is here if you have any questions. So on your screen, you will see the area of the application where we're talking about here, the zoning, an aerial image. And this is an image from just yesterday showing this is on the western portion of the Anderson softball complex, along with a couple more images from a couple of months ago. The applicant has applied for the zoning change and PUD overlay in order to tailor the development standards to the specifics of the proposed project, the Eola development, which is a new master planned mixed-use development surrounding a 4-acre urban park. The proposed project is 8 7-story buildings with underground parking, 1 to 2 floors of commercial space with combination of residential condominiums and apartments with patio spaces that open up to the park. Buildings 3 and 4 in the southeast corner are proposed to be residential only at this time. There's a parking garage also proposed. However, if it is not constructed, the applicant proposes a similar mixed-use structure as the other 8. The applicant states that the development will be a walkable community that has trails connecting to the park, coordinated events with surrounding community organizations, to naturally coexist with the surrounding amenities. The master land use plan shows the building envelope and structures, parking circulation, and open space. And note that if the zoning change and master land use plan are approved by the city commission, the planning commission will review the final plans for the PUD at some point in the future. As permitted by section 20-0301E of the Land Development Code, there's a number of modifications for the general commercial zoning district, which would be established in the PUD zoning overlay. Up on your screen, there's a few slides of the modifications. I'll read over pretty quickly. The PUD would allow residential use, would establish a residential density of 70 units per acre, increase the building height within proximity to residentially zoned property, as well as just a maximum building height on the property of 85 feet, reduces the front street and rear setbacks to 10 feet, establishes a minimum of 20% open space on site, modifies parking requirements for the mixed-use development to provide 1.16 parking spaces per residential unit and 1 per 230 gross square feet of commercial uses of retail, office, restaurant, which would be sit-down and fast food. The applicant put together a parking study, which was reviewed by our traffic engineer who concurred with the study, which notes the modifications up on your screen that I just read. In addition, there's some landscape modifications, including waiving the requirement for a parking lot buffer, an increase in the maximum perennial open space plant units from 20% to 40%, reduction of the placement of the open space plant unit requirements from 70% to 25%, the allowance to meet open space landscaping within the development collectively, exclusion of active recreation areas as part of the open space calculations, and that at each phase and final plan of the PUD, the landscaping would increase and be reviewed at that time. In addition, there's some design standards and other requirements that are included in your packet that are largely consistent with the existing conditional overlay that have building material requirements, variation in color scheme, facade requirements, screening of HVAC, loading spaces and dumpsters, pedestrian connectivity, as well as prohibited uses. Up on the screen are renderings of the development from the applicant. I'll just flip through here quickly. This first image is showing a view towards the northeast. And this view is towards the northwest, so you can see there's some active recreation in the public park in the center. Staff has not received any public comment for the application and is recommending approval for the zoning change and the PUD master land use plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Megan, commissioners? If not, I'll ask the applicant to speak if he so wishes.
My name is Blake Nybakken with Epic Companies. Just like to thank you all for your time today. We're very excited about getting going on this development. Right now, the plans are to get going on the first 2 buildings just south of the 24th Avenue right-of-way project in the northwest quadrant. Sometime probably this summer, I know that we've been working with our civil engineer and they're coordinating with city for that project to move forward. Yeah, and we're excited about the development. I think we've got some neat amenities planned. I think there's going to be some really nice features in the 4-acre public space in between the buildings. That's going to be a really nice attraction, not only for the community, but I think it'll turn out to be a regional amenity as well that I think will bring a lot of visitors to the area. So,
Great.
yeah, we're excited about it. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Blake? Seeing none, thank you, Blake.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question. This
Yeah.
is Dawn. It said that the setback is from the side and rear are reduced to 10 feet. Is that right? So does that mean that it's going to be pretty much right up close to the street, or the setback is where the parking is?
The side and the rear would be not the street side, so it would be in between the buildings and then on the park side. So we just wanted to reduce that. I think it was only like a 5-foot reduction from what's typical of the zoning ordinance, but that way we could have any outdoor plaza or patio space, connect directly to the public park and not run into any setback issues there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question on this. Is there stadium seating proposed?
That was kind of.
Okay.
That was a sledding hill in that rendering. I don't know if we can bring that picture back up, but that's a sledding hill that would be connected to our third building on the southwest corner. So that would kind of open up into the plaza space. You could use it as kind of quasi amphitheater type seating, but it would be a winter amenity in the form of a sledding hill, similar to like what Titletown is at Green Bay. And then it would also be able to be used in the summertime as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Dawn. What would it be used for in the summer?
Outdoor seating, kids can play on it still. I'm not sure if it's going to be a natural surface or a turf surface, but I've seen some other things being used. But yeah, just outdoor kind of elevated seating area, gathering space.
How steep is it? It looks steep from this photo here, or this rendering.
Yeah, I don't know the grade. I think that's shown at 3 stories in height at the top, and then it runs out quite a ways. So it's not a terribly steep grade, but good enough to get you moving on a tube in the wintertime.
All right. Okay, hearing no other questions, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this project? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, any further questions, or are we ready to act?
I will make the motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Holtz,
Aye.
Sherling,
Yes.
Tassa,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Stoffren, Rosenberg,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to item 2 on our agenda, a hearing on an application requesting a conditional use permit to allow manufacturing and production in a GC, General Commercial zoning district. Donald, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Donald Kress from the Department of Planning and Development. Our next item here is, as Commissioner Gunkelman stated, a conditional use permit request for 3241 South University Drive. That property is zoned general commercial. This is the old media productions studio here. It's an office space, and there's a larger open space in it that I believe used to be a TV production studio. And there's a view of it from this morning here, And just a little point about this, this actually doesn't access University Drive directly. It's on a frontage road. That's not a problem. It's just interesting point of this site. The applicant is Packet Digital. They're a company that produces electronic components. Building is proposed to be their new headquarters and a manufacturing facility. This is what we would call a clean manufacturing. There are no outside, there's no smokestacks, there's no hazardous materials, there's no truck docks of busy semis coming in and out of there on a daily basis. So this is something that really the surrounding neighborhood wouldn't notice, but it is manufacturing, so pursuant to our land development code would require this conditional use permit. Staff did receive a couple of inquiries from neighboring property owners who were wondering what the nature of the proposed business was, and we answered their questions, and there was no opposition to that, to this project. The recommended motion here includes a number of conditions. These are the standard conditions that go on all of our conditional use permits for manufacturing and production. They might not all exactly, be something that this applicant would be doing, but it applies. We apply these, all across the board on this. The applicant's representative, Terry Zimmerman, who is the CEO of Packet Digital, is with us this afternoon, and they wish to address the commission. The recommended motion for approval is stated on the screen. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for Donald on this one? If not, I'll ask the applicant to speak if he so wishes. She wishes, sorry.
Thank you for your time today. Terry Zimmerman with Packet Digital. We're excited about expansion into the South Fargo space to supply the needs of some of our customers. Lockheed Martin, Bell Helicopter, Air Force Research Lab will be the customers we'll be supporting with production in this space. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, commissioners? I want you to know that you're going to be tearing apart my sound studio that I built many, many years ago for Lee Massey, so.
It is a very cool space.
Quiet. Any questions? Okay, thank you. I will open it up for the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this project? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, are you ready to act?
I'll move to approve.
Got a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Schneider,
Aye.
Sherling,
Yes.
Holtz,
Aye.
Stoffren, Morgan,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Tassa. Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries. All right, item 3 is continued to June. Item 4, a hearing on an application requesting a conditional use permit to allow an alternative access plan for a parking reduction. We have a new planner joining our ranks. You've been in the planning department, but in another area. So Karen, welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Commissioners.
Take it away.
As the chair said, my name is Karen Flum, and it's nice to come in front of you for the first time. This agenda item number 4 is located at 3521 39th Street South in DK First Edition. And on your screen is an aerial view of the subject property and the surrounding area. And this is the zoning map. The property is limited industrial, surrounded by limited industrial uses as well. And some site photos of the location. The applicants, Jack and Ashley Luica of Fetchers, which is a dog daycare, are requesting a conditional use permit for an alternative access plan to reduce the required parking on site. The facility is a dog kennel, and they're looking to add an expansion. And under the Land Development Code, this retail sales and service use would be required to provide 1 parking stall per 250 square feet of floor area. The applicant is requesting to use the daycare parking ratio, which requires 1 stall per 500 square feet of floor area, as the dog kennel operates similarly to a child daycare center with customers picking up or dropping off animals. And the city traffic engineer reviewed the proposed ratio and found it sufficient. Staff received 1 inquiry into the application and no opposition. Staff are recommending approval with the conditions of 1 stall per 500 square feet of dog kennel area, and that the conditional use permit will cease if the use changes from a dog kennel for more than 12 consecutive months. And the recommended motion is found on your screen. And I'm available for any questions, and the applicant is here as well. Thank you.
Any questions for Karen?
Karen, how many spots are there right now? So in half, essentially?
So there's 15 right now. So there's an existing administrative alternative access plan on the property. And one of the conditions was if they came in for, an expansion, that would be reevaluated. So this is that reevaluation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the applicant to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Lewicka. That's my wife, Ashley Lewicka. I would like to thank Karen and Maggie, especially for their time in helping us understand the rules, regulations, the code in which we intend to follow. We're very excited about growing. We opened in 2018 and August of 2018. In 2019 and this last year in 2020, we were voted the #1 kennel of all Fargo-Moorhead for dog boarding, daycare, and grooming. And we're just really excited about serving more if we can. We have enough acreage there to do more, and we'd like to do more. We can add some more parking, but just following the 1 per 500 would really be sufficient for what we need. So thank you.
That sounds great. Any questions for the applicant?
No, I just want to make a comment. I know it's been a really difficult year, and to see small businesses grow at this time, it's really exciting. So really excited for you guys.
You know, it's attributed also to the North Dakota Department of Commerce. We were able to get a grant to help our business become COVID green as well. We have air exchange system that now sanitizes the air every 10 minutes. So it also helps with our dog health as well, but the health of our staff. So that's been great.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that the dogs are going to have to wear masks also.
That'd be tough.
But,
That'd be tough.
yeah. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, you ready to act? Is there a motion out there?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Schirling,
Yes.
Stoffren,
Aye.
Foltz,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Tasa,
Aye.
Morgan, Schneider,
Aye.
Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to item 5A. Hearing on the application requesting a zoning change from MR2 multi-dwelling residential to MR2 multi-dwelling residential with a PUD. Aaron.
Thank you and good afternoon. So as you said, this is a request for a plan unit development at 515 Oak Street North in Fargo. But before I get too far along here, I do want to discuss the note that was included on the first page of your staff report. Hopefully that kind of caught your eye there. But essentially, we're in a little bit of a unique situation here. The applicant has requested that this application be withdrawn based on some discussion and some direction from staff. In quick summary, staff feels that the proposed development intent or the type of development is would better align with the intent of the downtown mixed use, the DMU zoning district. And so staff has suggested to the applicant that instead of pursuing a PUD, planning and development on a site, that he withdraw that application and instead propose a zoning change to downtown mixed use, in addition to a conditional overlay, just based on the intended development of the applicant. And so for purposes of today, we did want to bring this in front of you today and have an opportunity to discuss some of the specifics of the applicant's intent, with the understanding that he is looking to withdraw this application at the conclusion of our discussion here today. And then he has submitted an application for a rezone to DMU with a conditional overlay, which I can talk about a little bit as well. And we did want to have the opportunity to have the public hearing as well, which was previously scheduled for today. And so that rezone application wouldn't come, that's not on today's docket. That wouldn't, the earliest that would come in front of you would be the June 3rd agenda, just to make that clear. And so there's really no formal action that's being requested today. It's more the opportunity for some discussion to get this in front of you, in front of the public, and to allow some time to discuss the specifics here. So before I move along, I guess, is there any questions on kind of where things sit with this in regards to the current application status? Okay. So if not, I'll again provide a little bit of background information on the applicant's intended development type. I won't talk too much in specifics to the actual request for rezone that will be coming in the future. Again, mainly just focusing on the design intent. And so first, these slides here are some of the existing conditions today. Maybe just to take a quick step back here. The subject property is located on the kind of northeast corner of downtown, southern edge of the Horace Mann neighborhood, just kind of straight northeast of our location here at City Hall, on the corner of Oak Street and 6th Avenue North. This block in general has come before you a couple of times over the last couple of years. Most recently, the southern and eastern portion of this block was rezoned to downtown mixed use, I believe, just last year. And so the northwest corner is the subject property here that we're talking about here today. Most of the property is vacant. There were formerly a mix of different residential types on this block and on this subject property that have since been demolished. So in terms of the applicant's proposed development, what's being proposed is a 3-story multi-dwelling building, residential building, would consist of, 21 dwelling units. Currently, the applicant, Jesse Craig, is looking to include 9 one-bedroom units and 12 two-bedroom units in that 21-unit total. The units would front on the north and on the west. North is on the left-hand side of your screen on this image here. And those would be the 3-story portions of the building. Also included would be 31 indoor parking spaces. And so the parking area that you see in the site plan here would actually be enclosed. It would be a 1-story portion of the building. This rendering here kind of shows that elevation. This is on the kind of southwest corner of the subject property looking northeast. And so you can see the units that would be fronting on Oak Street here, and then on the right-hand side of this image, the 1-story portion of the indoor parking area. Access to the site would actually be via cross-access easement from the adjacent property, and so there would be no direct access from the subject property onto this into the subject property. The applicant is part owner in the adjacent project as well, which would be under construction here this summer, I believe. A neighborhood open house was held just last week, October 26th. Over the years, the applicant has had numerous conversations on kind of this block in general, but for purposes of the open house last week, the focus was on the subject property here. We had about 6 residents show up, and kind of I'd say the main takeaways from that, some of the reactions where there was a little bit of maybe apprehension with the proposed density on this site, but overall feedback was largely positive in terms of the design intent and the kind of architectural features that the applicant is going for. So the applicant is proposing kind of a brownstone type aesthetic here through discussions with some of the representatives of the neighborhood association and residents in this area, looking to do brick and stone on the exterior, which again would fit better with the DMU zoning district, which requires some of those enhanced architectural features, building articulation, things like that. And so that's kind of a high-level overview of what's being proposed here. Again, in terms of the change in direction and the actual entitlements, the conditional overlay would be used to essentially ratchet down the amount of development that would be allowed within the DMU zoning district. The DMU zoning district, while it does have those additional architectural requirements, enhanced architectural requirements, it is quite liberal in allowing no limits on density, no parking requirements, things like that. And so the intent would be to use the conditional overlay to ratchet those down to be basically tailored to the specific development intent of the applicant. We did receive one letter of opposition, which is included in your staff report, mainly opposed again to the amount of units and the density proposed here. Formerly, the applicant was looking to do kind of a townhome product. You might recall that from past discussions on this block and the adjacent development in the past. And so this is a slight deviation from that, but trying to keep that kind of similar aesthetic. So I think with that, I think that kind of wraps up what I wanted to talk about today. Happy to answer any questions. And again, we would like to still hold the public hearing, and then at the conclusion of the public hearing, at the conclusion of discussion, if the chair, you can just announce that this application is withdrawn essentially, and we can move on to the next item. So.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner? I see Mary had her hand up.
Thank you. Aaron, I'm just wondering, when you make a change like this, does it impact the amount of green space? It doesn't appear to me that there's much for green space, just a lot of parking here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think specifically the proposal right now, it's something like 80-something percent building coverage, 83% building coverage roughly. And so again, the current zoning is MR2, and the MR2 zoning district would require 35% open space. And so with the original application for PUD, that was one of the changes that they were looking to make would be to reduce the open space as part of that PUD application. The downtown mixed use zoning district, however, does not require any open space, just like any building downtown or on Broadway. The building can cover the entire property if they wish. And so with the conditional overlay, again, that can be a requirement of the conditional overlay if there's a certain percentage of open space that we would like to mandate to find that happy medium. That is the intent of the conditional overlay, is to kind of help with those transition areas when you're transitioning from one zoning district to another, in this case, transitioning from the downtown mixed use area to a residential neighborhood area.
So just if I could have a follow-up, is this really transitional? I mean, it's pretty much an established older neighborhood. I mean, there's a natural cutoff between downtown and this residential neighborhood. I mean, I get that it qualifies to be downtown mixed use, but really, when you look at it, I'm just trying to understand what the thought process is of the planning department.
Yeah.
Because to me, this looks like an established neighborhood, not downtown. And if you take away any requirements for any kind of green space, you really have pushed that into a neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe I can kind of touch on a few things, and then I don't know, Mark, if you want to add anything. But it is an interesting area. I pulled up the zoning map here just to provide some context where things sit with the zoning today. So the kind of tan color that you see there is the existing MR2, which is our is a multi-dwelling zoning district. And so multi-dwelling structures are allowed here by right today. However, the amount of units that he's proposing would not be allowed. And so it's really a matter of kind of that intensity, not so much the use. The use is permitted today. The block itself, the existing conditions there, it did have kind of a mix of single-family twin home conversion homes as well as apartments on the block that were all older and somewhat dated. And I can let the applicant maybe speak to the condition of those the houses that were existing on the block up until recently. And so it is I guess in staff's mind, kind of that transition area as you look to the south. There is some existing apartments kind of southwest there, where you see the red is the general commercial zoning district, and then you transition to that purple is the downtown mixed use. And so the single family SR zoning districts are all north of 6th Avenue and kind of northeast there as you head towards Oak Grove. And so I would say too that staff is really responding to the applicant's request. And so I'm not really here today to talk about the specifics of the downtown mixed use.
Sure.
We'll talk more about that certainly as we have time to process the application. But I think the main thing is just that we didn't want, with the proposal that the applicant has, in staff's mind, that fits much more, it's in much better alignment with the intent and the purpose of the downtown mixed use zoning district than the intent of the existing zoning district, which is MR2. And so really it's more a matter of just being transparent and kind of more clear with what the development intent is with the underlying zoning district, and not using the PUD to kind of craft a quasi DMU zoning district, if you will. I don't know if that kind of answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, commissioners? Dawn?
I have a general question. I like the looks of the building. It does look fairly classical. And my question is, I noticed that in some of the other requirements for apartment buildings, there's a need for multiple materials and multiple colors and textures, that sort of thing, whereas it's not required here. I actually prefer this look, but I was just wondering if you could explain that to me.
Yeah, and I might have missed the question about the colors there.
Okay. So I had noticed when we were looking at reviewing the other apartments, there was the requirement for multiple colors, multiple materials, and textures like bump outs and that sort of thing. But I see the bump outs here, but I'm not seeing the requirements for colors and textures. And it's not that I'm criticizing this, I'm just wondering what the criteria is there.
Yeah. Yep. So with the PUD that was kind of originally proposed, and that's talked about in the staff report there, you'll see there's a section in the PUD zoning map amendment on page 2 of 5 of the staff report. Talks about some additional standards there. And within those additional standards, we do have some kind of, I don't want to call it boilerplate, but some design standards that have been used elsewhere in the city of Fargo. For example, in kind of the newer growth area of Fargo, Southwest Fargo, there are a lot of conditional overlays and things that we put on some of our multi-dwelling zoning districts to require some of those additional design standards in lieu of having, or since we don't really have any of those architectural standards in the base zoning district. And so the PUD is very customizable, and so the specific design elements can be worked in, and if there's some specific design elements that you as a planning commission would like to see, those are certainly eligible to be added as requirements to a PUD or a plan unit development. And as far as the transition, then if they were to go the DMU route with a conditional overlay, the downtown mixed-use zoning district does have some architectural standards that are just built into the base zoning district to start with. And then on top of that, the conditional overlay can be used similar to the PUD to add some additional design requirements. It's meant to be, again, a tool that's provides some flexibility and allows for some response to the context. And so in this case, the context being right across the street from some single family homes, for example. And so you can really use that as a tool to tailor the design and requirements to the context of the area.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Aaron? Seeing none, I could open up I could ask the applicant to speak. Jesse, you.
Hello. Trying to get to a decade of working on this project, so we don't want it to end anytime soon. To address kind of the green space issue, this was part of an entire block that I've been working on. There was only one house on that entire block that was being lived in by the occupant, 84-year-old lady who had 4 feet of sewage in her basement, didn't even know about it because she had a plugged water main. So the rest of them were kind of not salvageable when you look at asbestos that was in there, that we just removed all of that, and foundations and things of that nature. But the main reason why the green space kind of got restricted is, in designing the bigger project in the back, we had to have a fire lane that went around the back of that, so that pushed it further. And then I made the promise to the neighborhood that I always have ample off-street parking. And so in order to fit that parking lot in there, it reduced the size of this site by 12,000 square feet. I could put the apartments on top of the parking garage, but then it would raise the height. And I always made the promise that I'd put something there that made it look like it had been there for 100 years. So we're kind of going above and beyond the design standard as far as bricking the entire site, having the heavier stone on the base and things of that nature, putting in higher end windows, the black rather than just a white vinyl window and things of that, doing the flat roof versus a peaked roof. And a lot of this has gone out, all of this in fact has gone out to the neighborhood in various ways, Facebook and things like that. Had probably close to 13 meetings with the neighborhood along the way on all of these design aspects, and getting the feedback from them. And I think if you look at the size of neighborhood Horace Mann, Oak Grove, and having 6 people show up at the neighborhood meeting and having 1 letter in opposition, I think it speaks volumes for the amount of time and effort that I've put into this thing, to make sure that I've tried to appease as many people as I possibly can, along the way. So I'm open to any questions if anyone has anything.
Any questions, commissioners?
Jesse, when you first had a comment being opposed to it, we're talking about townhomes that were originally proposed, comparing to that. So how did you get from there to where you're at right now in terms of changes?
Different design aesthetics, different architects, different ownership groups. When we initially did the kind of the peaked roof, lower level, story and a half, 2-story townhomes, for me, it just didn't look like it belonged in that neighborhood. It looked like it belonged on 32nd Avenue, 52nd Avenue South. It just never appealed to me in that fashion. And again, looking at the feedback from the neighborhood, and then the constraints of the size of the lot. So.
Any other questions?
Well, I guess I don't know if this is so much a question, but similarly, I think this is just the design that's in front of us today is just significantly different from the original plan that we reviewed previously, and I don't necessarily have any questions or concerns about converting this to DMU, although I do agree with the neighborhood this is in this transition. The motivation to change this so significantly so that we have an increased density of of residents, I don't understand how that's not gonna affect traffic. Also, the number of units, so many one-bedrooms, this is so close to a school. I think part of what the appeal behind the first design was that it would be more accommodating for families. So this is all 1 and 2 bedroom units?
Yeah, their condos are gonna be sold. Yep. And honestly, my children went to Oak Grove, both my older daughters. The people that drive fast on that road are the students.
I don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah, I've been in that traffic. So, but I appreciate your comment on it, I honestly do. But we're also looking at, had I gone back, if I could turn back time, I probably would have pushed to DMU this entire site. The whole idea was that this was gonna be looked at individually, and now, engineering's looking at it as an entire project. So now I have to put water detention on the site, and the cost to design that and to pay for that. And so you've got all of those things, and the site getting smaller because of the fire lane and things like that, which I understand. I mean, those are needed and expected. But as those things have morphed and kind of come about, it is, again, I could just put apartments in there and not sell them. But again, I made a promise to the neighborhood that I would bring in families or bring in home ownership or ownership, and that's what we've kind of strived for. But with the costs, with the size of the site and the cost for the land ultimately, and, my portion of the levy and things of that nature and the water detention, this will just set a vacant site that will mow if I can't put enough units on there to make the numbers work for the cost. I mean, I could dumb it down and put fewer units on there and then put vinyl siding on it, but then I'm not gonna go for the DMU zoning, because then there's a requirement to have that aesthetic on there. So, we can go one way or the other. I can guarantee you one way is gonna appease the neighborhood and one's gonna upset them greatly. And I wouldn't be comfortable putting a steel-sided project on that site. I just wouldn't. I don't think it would do the justice to the Oak Grove neighborhood.
Mary?
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I know I've looked at your other project, but I don't recall the details. Could you just briefly tell us how how they'll complement each other?
Well, what we're trying to do is, the biggest thing with this is trying to get some tiering, some stacking, if you will, for the neighborhood, so you don't have just this 5-story structure sitting in the back all by itself. So this is pushed up against the sidewalk to give some type of, guarding against that, if you will. What we're trying to do is pull the darkest brick color that's gonna be on the big project onto this site. Same with the metal color. If there's gonna be any metal railings or anything like that, that's gonna, set this project apart or make it look aged. We're trying to, pull those aesthetics from the big project.
And then there's considerable green space surrounding the other.
Yes. It's not required, but it is.
Okay, thank you.
And we're going further on that too, as far as like the fire lane, we're working with Jeremy Gordon at the city to try to make that into a bike path that will jump over the top of the levee and tie into the bike path that already goes underneath the railroad now. Improvements like the cul-de-sac at the end of the street, additional lighting, parking on both sides of the street. All of those things are just, trying to go above and beyond to make it, very appealing.
Thank you.
Jesse, you mentioned bike path and immediately Rocky perked up. Rocky's got a question. No, I'm just kidding.
Wasn't about biking, but yeah, I do appreciate that. No, I think our older neighborhoods need investment, and so I appreciate you trying to stick with this and work with the neighborhood. I think that's been appreciated. You can't make everybody happy, but do appreciate the work you put into it. I do have the similar concern as Commissioner Sherling, though, about the DMU creep into the neighborhood.
Sure.
That said, I think this location probably makes sense, and I guess that's probably our job to decide on a case-by-case basis, but just go on record that I'm concerned if it goes too much further to it, doesn't make sense at this time. But I think this is a project that's worth doing, and I guess it's within 3 blocks of 3 different parks, pretty major parks, and I guess as a resident of the city of Fargo, I want as many people to live next to those public amenities as possible. And so if you're gonna put density there, I'd rather that than only a couple houses that get to enjoy those parks, right up to the front. And so I think this would be a good location to live. next to all those amenities and bike paths.
The historical overlay will eliminate any more creep on the DMU in this neighborhood. So I applaud them for doing that because I think it was necessary. At the last neighborhood meeting, the other thing we talked about was the whole wildflower park down below and working with the neighborhood. And again, this is a big push with this size of a project, but to be able to take that, that space down there and making it into something usable, whether it be a movie night or something like that, something again that would, my tenants and my condo owners would appreciate. And also would bring value, I think, to the neighborhood and take, what now is pretty much overflow or debris catcher for the floods and actually make that into something, extend or build upon the gardens that are down there right now and make that into a farmer's market location or something of that nature. So work with the neighborhood on that also.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll open it up, open up the public hearing if anybody wishes to speak on this project. Seeing none? Okay, Aaron. We can close that one out. All right, we'll move on to item 6A. A hearing on an application requesting a zoning change from agricultural to limited industrial on the proposed Dakota Commercial Center addition. Aaron, please.
Thank you. So yes, this is a request for a major subdivision, which would include a subdivision waiver as well as a zoning map amendment. The subject property is located just north side of 40th Avenue North on the east side of County Road 81, just northwest of the airport, and then just south of the new Amazon facility. This application is represented by Paul Hyde of Hyde Development. Excuse me. So the intent of this application is to accommodate future industrial development of the subject property. The proposed subdivision would plat the subject property into 4 lots on 1 block. And then the proposed zoning map amendment would rezone the property from AG agricultural to LI limited industrial. The developer intends to construct 4 large buildings, 1 on each of the 4 lots for industrial commercial lease. And then the subdivision includes a subdivision waiver again. And the specifics here is that the waiver would allow the block length to exceed 1,320 feet, which is typically the limit of block sizes in the LDC. The applicant is requesting this larger block size to accommodate larger than average lot sizes for larger than average buildings. The likely building size would range from around 125,000 square feet to 200,000 square feet. So access to each of the lots can be accommodated via existing public street, and then the developer will establish some cross-access easements to allow for vehicular flow between the abutting lots. Those easements would be established once the final site plan is set and their designs are finalized. Also included in the subdivision is a proximity agreement, which is included as an attachment to your packet, whereby the developer acknowledges the property's location in proximity to the airport and the sewage lagoons and the potential for noise and odor from these existing facilities. The property is currently located within the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction, but the owners have petitioned for an annexation. The annexation of the subject property will be discussed separately as the next item on today's agenda. Some photos for you here of the site taken recently from various angles. Right now it's just essentially a large field with a couple of houses in it today. With that, though staff does find that the proposed subdivision and zoning map amendment complies with all applicable standards and review criteria of the Land Development Code, and staff is recommending approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Aaron? Seeing none? I could ask the applicant to speak if he so wishes.
Hi, my name is Paul Hyde. Thank you for your time today and for considering our agenda item.
This will be our second industrial park that we've developed in Fargo. Our first was the Butler Business Park at Main Avenue and I-29. And we had great success there getting regional and national tenants like Fastenal and Hirschfields and XPO Logistics, and we hope to do the same here. We're excited to get going and starting construction as soon as we get through the Planning Commission and City Council meetings. We'll close on the land in June and start site work right away, with the first building being delivered in December of 2021. Happy to answer any questions, and thank you for your time.
Any questions, commissioners? You could probably put a forklift repair business there to service Amazon probably when they get going.
That's an idea. I'm going to write that one down.
I'll write that one down. Any questions? All right, thank you. I'll open that up for the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this project? Seeing none? Commissioners, are we ready to act? Mary?
Thank you. I move to accept the findings and recommendations of staff and approve the recommendation.
I have a motion. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Holtz,
Aye.
Schirling,
Yes.
Morgan,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Stoffren,
Aye.
Tassa, aye, Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries. We're approaching 4 o'clock. Why don't we take a little over a 5-minute break and come back? We'll close out with the other items on the agenda.
mission is education.
All right, I think I'll call the meeting back to order. And we'll move on to item E1, review of the proposed annexation. The last project we just heard. Aaron, take it away.
Thank you. Yep, so as you just mentioned, this is kind of a follow-up to the last agenda item. This is item E1, so this is a non-public hearing item. This is a request for annexation. And why it's on the agenda here in front of you today is we are looking for a finding from you that the annexation is consistent with the 2007 growth plan. And so as outlined in the staff report, this area is within the what the growth plan refers to as the Tier 1 growth area, which is just the area intended to accommodate growth within the 20 years, starting in 2007. As discussed in the last item here, the area is currently serviced by adjacent right-of-way, and staff has no concerns with this area being annexed into the city of Fargo. So again, there's no public hearing tonight, but there will be a public hearing once this reaches city commission. This will be kind of occurring concurrently with the requested subdivision and zone change. So the goal would be to have those on the same city commission agenda in the near future. So with that, again, we're looking for a finding of consistency with the growth plan. One thing I don't want to forget to mention too is that the annexation boundary is a little bit different than the plat boundary. The annexation does actually include the right-of-way for County Road 81, as well as the adjacent right-of-way for 40th Avenue North. So just wanted to point that minor difference out. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have for staff.
So just to clarify, the current everything in the current Amazon site is in the ET.
So on the aerial map here, you can kind of see this teal line. That's the existing city boundary. And so the annexation area just to the north of the subject property here was recently annexed.
Yeah, it is annexed in, and this will just complete that.
Yep.
And that chunk of Highway 81 also became part of the city in that one too.
It did not actually.
Oh,
so I'll
okay.
Flip to the annexation plat here. On the plat, you can kind of see this dashed line is the existing city limit boundary, and you can see as you travel north on County Road 81 here, it's the limit that's on the east side. This plat will include this section of County Road 81. Just to provide a little bit of background there, with the annexation of the Amazon property there, the city did enter into a memorandum of understanding with Cass County, basically detailing the timing of the city annexing in the County 81 right-of-way. And so essentially, Road 81 in this area into 3 chunks. Chunk number 1 was the area between 40th Avenue and 44th Avenue, which was platted with the Amazon site there. And so basically what it said was when the area east of this chunk of County Road 81 is annexed, the city will also annex this section of right-of-way.
Okay.
And so as the area north of Amazon gets annexed, there will be kind of a second trigger point, if you will, that will basically be the timing that the right-of-way to the north of 44th Avenue would be annexed as well.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? So we have our staff recommendation. Can I get a motion, commissioners? Scott?
I move to approve with the motion outlined in the staff report.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or any other questions regarding this annexation? Is this a roll call vote? It is a roll call vote. Roll call vote, please.
Tassa?
Aye.
Holtz?
Aye.
Rosenberg?
Aye.
Morgan?
Aye.
Stoffren? Schneider?
Aye.
Schirling?
Yes.
Gunkelman?
Aye, motion carries. Item 2 will be done at the next meeting, the nominating committee. let's see, item 3, review of the proposed renewal plan and tax increment financing district. Mr. Gilmore.
Thank you. What we have here is the proposed renewal plan for the Drecker Brewery expansion. The renewal plan is providing, it documents the fact that the property west of Drecker is blighted. It qualifies for tax increment financing. So what the plan does that plan makes it eligible for tax increment financing. The actual amount of the tax increment financing in those terms are reviewed by our tax exempt review committee. They have already done that and they're recommending approval of those incentives. The role of the planning commission is to look at whether or not this particular plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, essentially the proper zoning and land use. You've looked at this very recently, and so I think you've already made those determinations, but we didn't have the renewal plan prepared at that time. And so the recommendation today is to simply recommend to the City Commission that this proposed renewal plan is consistent with the GO 2030 comprehensive plan of the City of Fargo. The City Commission will have a hearing on this in May 17th. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions, commissioners?
Who owned the property of the west, the blighted property?
The developer, both Drecker and Kevin Bartram, they're here today. They own the property west of the brewery itself that's within this plan. The property further west is owned by, I believe, Mr. Bollinger and his companies, and they're aware of this project. They've been notified of the zoning. And
Okay, thank you.
Question. Thank you. So you say that it's consistent with GO 2020. I'm just wondering, and I know it's a thick document, but could you just basically say why it's consistent with that? What, is there an outline of just a brief summary?
I mean, one of the things GO 2030 did was encourage more infill mixed use. This is already a commercial area, and as such, you've zoned it to allow, this mixed use development. The mixed use will include the brewery, an event center, small hotels, small apartments, or a number of apartments. I think there's 24 all on one site. So I think it's consistent with the city plans to redevelop these, vacant sites that are difficult to develop.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, commissioners, is somebody ready to make a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Morgan,
Aye.
Foltz,
Aye.
Sherling,
Yes.
Soffren,
Aye.
Tossa,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Gunkelman.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Item E4.
Good afternoon, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Eric Johnson. I'm the city attorney. I'm just going to have a handout here.
Thank you.
So thanks for allowing me to show up sort of on short notice. I was just visiting yesterday with Nicole about House Bill 1248 that's been enacted, signed by the governor, and will take effect as do most bills, August 1st. They might take effect earlier if there were an emergency measure, but there wasn't one approved on this. But I thought I'd give you a heads up about it because I've been asked to sort of place it before the city commission, just for the city commission to begin the process of looking at it. So I thought I'd talk to you about it. So if you've heard about it in the news, this does affect the land development code, and that's within your purview. And so at least to give you a heads up about this bill, what it means, and what I kind of expect will happen with it. House Bill 1248 was introduced in a slightly different form than this. This is the resulting form. And basically it took an existing statute that placed limitations on political subdivisions, including home rule cities such as the city of Fargo, from enacting ordinances regarding the purchase, sale, ownership, possession, and so forth of firearms and ammunition, and basically said those are void. We have, as you well know, we've talked about this before, a home occupation restriction that creates a limitation on someone from working out of their home, whether that be a house, a single-family dwelling, or an apartment, or a condominium, from selling firearms. And I think you're well aware of that issue. That became the topic of this measure brought to the state legislature. And so the WORDS Act, to make it clear, on the part of some of the legislators that introduced it, they wanted to make it clear that we mean also zoning ordinances, such as the one Fargo has on home occupations. And so this did pass, as I just said, and it's been signed by the governor and will take effect later this year. I call attention to the second item, which was just simply authorizing a civil action if a city were to try to enforce a restriction on firearm sales that's contrary to this. It would authorize an action for damages against the political subdivision. So again, I included in the little packet I just handed you sort of the relevant portion of the Land Development Code, starting at page 3 of the packet, which is just the home occupation law in general. Specifically, I call your attention to what I've marked as page 5 and the firearms and ammunition sales portion. Again, we've got this list in our Land Development Code of home occupations that are specifically prohibited: dispatch centers, mortuaries, animal care boarding centers for pets and so forth, and this type of firearms restriction. So, that particular provision on page 5 of the handout is the target of House Bill 1248. In my opinion, House Bill 1248, when it takes effect on August 1st, will render that restriction in our Land Development Code as void. As a legal matter, it'd be unenforceable by the city. But I think what we propose to you and to the City Commission is to just go ahead and repeal it from our law so that it's clear and that the law is clearly worded and consistent with state law. What I expect to do is to present this to the City Commission probably at their next meeting, just to present the idea, much like I'm doing with you. You have another City Commission or another Planning Commission meeting, of course, in early June 8th, I believe, is the date for it. What I would propose is that the planning staff schedule a public hearing to consider the matter and make so that you can make your recommendation regarding this amendment to the Land Development Code, and then it would go on to the City Commission. It may be that the City Commission is sort of taking some steps on a parallel path. That'll remain to be seen, I guess. But again, my purpose for being here is to apprise you of the status of this particular introduced legislation that passed, and to let you know that there may be some activity at the City Commission at the same time as you're taking action on it. With that, do you have any questions?
Eric, a quick question now. Really, it's just a formality for us to say, because when it happens, it happens. It doesn't matter exactly what we or the commission does.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, it's just to clear up. It's just somewhat of a housekeeping item.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Any other questions? So, I mean, we've had one case of this about year and a half ago.
It was about January last year.
Yeah, if I
a little
remember
over a year
right.
ago.
So that one, under this, that person that could actually reapply?
Correct, yes. Yeah, I mean, if
Or
he.
do they even have to?
Yeah,
They
if
don't-
he's a minor home occupation, then you don't need to get
They
permission.
don't have
It's
to.
only a major home occupation that you need permission from the planning commission. So if he's got fewer than, I don't remember the details,
Yeah.
fewer than a certain number of
People.
of customers a day, and you don't have any employees coming to the site, all those things, you may, and have less than a fourth of your floor area, it's probably a minor home occupation, and so allowed as a matter of right.
Rocky?
Thanks, Erica. This is, helps clarify, and obviously we would have had a lot less discussion here a year ago if it's
Yes.
already been in. And so maybe they could keep passing laws and take away all of our local control. So we wouldn't be needed at all.
Wouldn't it make it easy?
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from staff?
Yeah, just a couple quick updates for you. One is on May 17th, it looks like the Land Development Code Diagnostic and the core neighborhood plan will be at the city commission meeting. We're still working out a couple details, but it looks like we'll have a heavy planning commission night at city commission May 17th. So appreciate all of the planning commissioners' support as we go through these big milestone projects and look forward to next step with those. And then also I'd be remorse to say we are very sad that Megan is leaving. I kind of joke, we have 4 division coordinators and each coordinator is like one of my limbs. And so I do feel like I'm losing a limb, but we do wish her well. And thanks everybody for joining me and wishing Megan well.
Let's give her a round of applause for me. With that, I think we're adjourned. All right. To make this official, is there a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
You can leave now. All right, thanks, everyone.